Welcome to EDO Breakthrough, the podcast where we tackle economic development challenges head on. From small towns to bustling cities, every place has its own hurdles to overcome. The EDO Breakthrough podcast creates an environment of collaboration, innovation, and understanding where we can share our real-life challenges and brainstorm solutions. I'm your host, Sandy Dubé, a certified economic developer and founder of PPR Strategies. Each week, we'll be welcoming a different, brilliant, place-based mind to talk through real-life economic development challenges that have been shared with us by you, our gracious listeners. Today, I'm joined by a fellow certified economic developer, Jolene Schalper. She is the Executive Vice President of the Great Falls, Montana Economic Development Alliance, or the Great Falls, Montana Development Alliance. I think I added a word there for you. But Jolene, before we get started, can you introduce yourself to our listeners today?
Hey, Sandy, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on. So I do economic development in North Central Montana with a team we consider ourselves a full service economic development team. I dove into economic development about 13 years ago. Kind of stumbled in, I guess, haphazardly. But
I'd love to hear the stumble.
I was looking for a change of career from doing more of community family asset development. So we worked with families through credit counseling and cap the rate initiatives for predatory lenders. And I did marketing and communications for them, but I was ready to move into something different. And a fundraising position was actually open within Great Falls Development Alliance. And I'd never done that before, but figured, I can do that. And so I stepped into that role and I was okay at it, but we soon realized that my talents lay more in the business development side of the house. And then now, since I've worked my way through and now I kind of manage the team while our executive director, Brett Doney, seeks out resources and more of the policy work. And then I do more of the team development and leadership.
That day-to-day operations
there
with the team. That's great. That's great. So I don't know if I confessed to you. I've confessed to other members of your team, but I grew up in Great Falls, Virginia. So my dream has always been to go to the other Great Falls. It's so cool.
Mine as well, because my luggage has gone to Great Falls, West Virginia, but I have not.
Oh my goodness. So yes, the Great Falls Montana Development Alliance. How big is the group? You've got a lot of people. I looking through your website. You say full service. Talk to me about that a little bit.
So, well, economic development, we really view as a team sport. And so when you look at our numbers, people go, wow, but it's the only way we're able to accomplish what we need. We consider ourselves, we are able to serve a business at any stage. So pre-startup, startup, expansion, attraction, site development, brownfield. So we house the government contracting Apex Accelerator. We house the Small Business Development Center. We have several team members there. We house a loan team. So we are a CDFI and a CDC, and we're approved lender for SBA 504 loans. And then we also have other loan pools. It really, though, the lending is really about getting deals done, right? So we're typically working on hard deals that need that extra oomph or that a bank said no, getting them across the finish line. And then a full business development and attraction team.
That's awesome. We've been having a lot of conversations recently about the sense of regionalism. And so talk to me a little bit about, the kind of the size, in case our listeners who aren't familiar with Great Falls, Montana and your size and what that region looks like.
Excellent. Yeah. So we serve we were founded in the 1990s, serving a 13 county region of North Central Montana. And I've been trying to figure out, our region is 44,000 square miles.
Oh,
and so
okay.
I think that there are several states, like Pennsylvania is about 44,000 square miles. And so that's about the size of our region. And so, and there's other services within that region, right? And there's ones that have sprang up since we started that we support and promote. So other community redevelopment agencies that have popped up and other tools. Really, we encourage everybody because it's about bringing more tools to the table and to the clients so that they can get projects done.
Yeah, so a town or a Main Street community, I assume they again would have a role in have a huge role in the ecosystem and would be a partner for you and the organization.
100%. We are ecosystem builders. And so we partner very closely with our downtown associations, with Chamber of Commerce's. Up until recently, we were a smaller organization. We have been able to grow over the last 15 years, which has been helpful. When I first started and we had 6 people, there wasn't much that we could do out in the rural communities, support and advocacy. But now that we have a larger team, we're able to be more responsive to community needs. And we're always looking at best practices, around the country. And I'll give you an example. The Choctaw Nation does this really, really well. They are an ecosystem builder for economic development for across their rural communities that they serve. And they're actually getting out. Many times rural communities have volunteers that are acting in the role of economic development, but they might not even realize that they're economic developers, right? Because they're elected mayor. It's not a paid position, but yet that's who people are going to turn to. So the Choctaw Nation has done a fantastic job of building up capacity of elected and volunteer positions in rural communities. And so those are the types of best practices that we're trying to emulate. And if I can give you a sneak, we are going to be sharing those types of best practices at the Rural Retreat this summer.
Wow, that was quite the transition. That was beautifully played. Um, when when we last connected at the IEDC Leadership Conference, you had been up on stage several times over at the last couple of IEDC conferences talking about this rural retreat. Talk to us about, this is IEDC's inaugural rural retreat. Love to hear more.
Well, we're just so excited to host the inaugural Rural Retreat because we've been pushing on IEDC, as many members have, saying, hey, we need more content and more focus on rural because a lot of America is considered rural, right? And a lot of our members are considered rural. Now, rural teams have the same premise in economic development. We're doing business retention and expansion. We're doing attraction. We're doing site redevelopment, real estate reuse. We're doing all of the key foundational elements. And then I've also seen that many times it's the rural practitioners that are the first to jump into entrepreneurial led economic development. And they're bringing in different partners. They're jumping into that Main Street. And they're jumping into tourism, and they're jumping into these areas that might not have historically been economic development areas, but that we're recognizing as a profession are just instrumental in the system that is our ecosystem, right? And so we're excited because that's going to be the focus. It's very traditional economic development, but within that context of maybe you only have one person who is a paid economic developer or not paid economic developer that is doing this. What are key takeaways that you can glean from bringing together other practitioners in different size communities from across the country, really focusing in on what do you need to take away? So we're offering different tracks that will hopefully bring that diverse content.
Yeah, I kept hearing a few years ago, I kept hearing people say, I'm down a person. I don't have enough. Da, 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 da. So we actually, PPR Strategies, our team created a little freebie, it's not I call everything a one pager. I think it's like 3 or 4 pages, but a little one page, quote unquote one pager of what if I'm down a team member? What do I do now? And so we like giving people some ideas on how to and when to engage and, how to cultivate, again, kind of those volunteers, those business leaders, executive on loans, interns, whatever it could possibly be, and how to do that effectively. Because you're right, in a lot of these rural communities, it might be a 1 or 2 person organization, and they may be the director of economic development and the director of parks and rec and or director of tourism and
Yeah, exactly.
permitting and everything. Like, so they've got, and they're also the county administrator or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, you've got like all of this under one person, and it's so overwhelming.
Sandy, can our listeners find that one pager that with air quotes for those of you listening? The one pager on your website.
I could hear your air quotes. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Cool. I will drop a link. We'll put a link in the show notes as well.
That'd be really helpful.
Yeah. But I think that I love IEDC embracing this rural retreat and this rural element of it. But I'm assuming that there's a place, Great Falls, Montana is rural to some and has this rural vibe, but it's still a city. So we think of regions and we think we've got this urban center and then maybe the region, the ruralness around it. So I'm curious how you're addressing if I am, in Pittsburgh and I want to come, but my job is Pittsburgh, but I'm, work in also, with other more rural areas surrounding me. What does that collaboration look like?
Well, I think that, we all work in different regions, of course, but there's a lot of similarities. So for example, Great Falls, we're 87,000 people, right? So we're a small metro, but we are an MSA. However, we are the service sector for that 40,000 square mile region that has communities that have 500 to 1,800 to 3,500. So we are helping because we know that their success is our success, right? It's not just about the MSA. And I would say that for Pittsburgh as well, that, all of the surrounding, that is the labor shed. That is the draw for different services and different opportunities. So we're all better if you look at yourself as a regional and go, okay, well, what can we do to empower others? What can we do to be a good partner? And perhaps something that would be a great takeaway for metros that are considering coming would be to kind of look around outside of the metro at their usual suspect partners and the ones that they might not be thinking of, and really look at it from a lens of what could I take away from this that could help me be a better support system in this ecosystem environment that we're trying to create, right? What could I take away that could help my colleagues and peers, some that can attend and some that just can't attend, but maybe I can take away some best practices that I can share with them. So I think if we're just looking at it more from we are all in this together and we're on the same team, and maybe that rural community down the road can't attend, but maybe you really want to attend for various purposes, see what they're struggling with most, and maybe you can bring some resources back to them or some examples and connections that then they can reach out to on their own after.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I have not registered yet, but I've been looking at the pricing, and I think it looks like once you get there, it's pretty affordable. So it's intended, I would assume, from a budget perspective, to be respectful of smaller communities and appropriate budgets.
Exactly. Exactly. The IEDC team has been great about that. They were very intentional about that, as were we when we're talking about this. And then, the flip side of what's in it for the larger metros is, okay, well, what about the rural communities? What are they going to take away from it because they're coming to an MSA, a metro? Well, we are decentralizing this conference and we are sending people out into the rural communities around Great Falls. So most of your sessions will not be in Great Falls. And we've had a lot of confusion over, well, I want to book at the conference hotel. There is not a conference hotel. We purposefully have it at our main conference center that's in our civic center downtown. But the sessions are held in rural communities all over Montana. Well, I shouldn't say all over Montana. Montana is a very big state. All over our region. The edges of our region are too far for us to get participants to. So within about an hour and a half drive time. So we're going to be going out and seeing community examples of success. But while we're there and adding to the toolkit, we'll be talking about other rural communities across the country. We'll be hearing from some leaders, thought leaders in the different tracks. So whether you're talking about entrepreneurship or you're talking about real estate and use of brownfields, whether you're talking about business retention and expansion or attraction, will be on site in small communities that are really kicking butt and having some great success.
I love that. Of course, my head went to like, okay, do I need a rental car? Are you going to be, busing me places? What do I need to be worrying about and thinking about? So I went down a logistics rabbit hole in my head. But
Oh yeah. Don't worry. We're going to bus you. We don't want everybody driving. We want to keep you together. We're going to be doing some speakers on the buses and doing some fun stuff on the buses. I mean, would you rather sit in a conference hotel room with a session or sit on a bus driving through gorgeous Montana
yeah,
getting your content? So yeah, no conference hotel rooms, no conference breakout rooms. Think of it as breakout buses.
that is great. I love it. Yes. Okay. That excites me too. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing those details. I know when we spoke in a couple of months ago at IEDC Leadership, we were talking about, how people can connect and like make the most of these conferences. And I think that content and bringing back best practices and an idea that might work and have worked in Great Falls may or may not work in a community, and how you massage and kind of steal the idea and then repurpose it for yourself is one thing. But then what about that network piece? I have admittedly struggled with this over the years. I try to connect with people on LinkedIn. I try to send an email, but I'm not inviting everybody that I met at the conference to be on the podcast. But if I did meet you at the conference and you want to be on the podcast, then reach out. But in this instance, I'm just curious. Yeah, thanks. I'm curious of thoughts or advice that you have for people. You obviously attend a lot of conferences and you're very involved with IEDC. What are you thinking?
I think that it's being very intentional, right? And so as you're going into a conference, well, much like you're going into, treat it like business development opportunity. A lot of us are really great at business development and attraction because we do our research in advance. We do our homework. We determine what our purpose is in advance. We go in, we do that, we accomplish that, and then we follow up afterwards. Now, I got to tell you, the follow up afterwards is the area in my networking at conferences that I fall down more on, and that I'm really been setting some very intentional outreach points in my calendar after I get back from a conference, because I'm guessing most people are like this, but you get back from a conference, you've just been out of the office. And so you're inundated with hundreds or even thousands of emails, calls, meetings. While I'm gone, my staff has completely booked my calendar. And so for the next week, I have 40 hours of meetings, let alone my other work. So I've been starting to block out time in my calendar in advance for that follow-up, so that those takeaways that I really want to implement or share with another colleague, or I want to call somebody and have a deeper dive one-on-one, I can get that scheduled. So I think that prep work, the while you're at the conference, that hard work, and then afterwards is a really good way to tackle it. And then, other tips that you think come natural, but I'm surprised sometimes they just don't. Like, don't stand and talk to the same people. Move around, meet people. And it can be hard. It can be really hard to walk up to a strange table and or group and just kind of, hey guys, but you can. That's why we're all there. And I have never, in all the times that I've walked up to random people at conferences, I have never had anybody shun me. So just,
Right. Yeah, there's no room in our clique. Yes, right. Please step away.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Our conversation's full. No. So break out of your shell and just push yourself to actually meet as many people as possible. I used to set a goal that I wanted to meet everybody that was at the conference, right? And I knew I wouldn't attain that.
Oh my God.
But you would be amazed at how many people I would meet at conferences, because that was my goal. I want to meet everybody. I want everybody to know that Jolene from Montana is here. And so, set a big, hairy, audacious goal for your conference networking.
Game on. Okay.
We'll compare notes, Sandy, afterwards and see how many people we met.
I cannot wait. My partner and I have a place in Bath, England that we've recently
Oh,
purchased,
wow.
and it's beautiful. And I could talk, all things Bath, but we were there recently, and we didn't have internet in the flat yet, so we had to go to co-working space. And I love the community of co-working space because it's like
Yeah.
this little micro downtown, and I would talk to anybody and everybody that would, talk to me and make eye contact. I mean, you made eye contact. I know your name. I know what you do for a living. I know how long you have lived
Yeah.
in the town. I know all these things. And so then by the end of 5 days, I was connecting people in other ways and stuff. It was literally the most fun I've had in a long time. It
That
was
is
great.
awesome. And that's exactly right. Ask people about themselves, right? If you're not sure how to break into a group, start asking people questions about themselves. Everybody likes to share stuff about themselves. I also try if I'm, sometimes we're not high energy. So if you're low energy one night, go into it with, okay, well, here are 3 questions that I can ask people that I'm truly interested in. I want to know what you're doing when you're not doing economic development, right? Like what really fires you up? Oh man, you learn some great things about people that then you remember and it's really engaging. So yeah. Now I can't see you being shy. Your story
No,
about the co-working
neither
space
of
is
us.
fantastic and very, very on brand.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yes, it was so funny. One of them, I was talking with this guy, Steve, and Steve was a videographer, and he said, I'm doing freelance work and I'm just not sure. And I think this was day 2 or 3 that I'd been in the space. And he said, I'm thinking about getting a real, quote unquote, real job, going back to corporate America. I said, well, have you thought about talking to Nick with the BBC? And who's sitting right here? And I'm pointing to Nick, who's like 5 feet from us. He said, who's Nick? I said, dude, like, how long have you been here? How do I know Nick and you don't know Nick? Like, but I also, and admittedly, not an introvert. I'm, extroverted, and I appreciate and enjoy asking people, walking up to that, a stranger in a room. But I also plan conferences for clients, and so understand that not everybody is an extrovert, and having space for introverts to be able to recharge and refuel. And but I love the idea of a bus ride, or the extracurricular that's usually at the beginning or the end of the conference that some people don't make time for, but that's
Mhm.
where you get the real relationships.
Yeah.
That's where you have the real conversations, is on the bus ride going somewhere throughout the beautiful state of Montana. It
Yeah.
will not be sitting in a conference room staring at a screen clicking through slides.
That's right. That's right. In fact, it's going to be real hard for presenters to have slides at our rural retreat. We are not really slide friendly. Sorry.
It's good. It's
But no,
good.
there's lots of opportunities. And when you talk about the relax and recharging aspect of it, this is weird. This is going to be a high energy, lots of work opportunity, right? This is meant to be something. Well, I mean, come on now. When you tell your boss, hey, I'm going to go to Montana for a conference, it's not quite like you're saying I'm going to Hawaii for a conference, but there's still going to
But
be
it's
a
pretty
little,
close.
there's still going to be a little sus, right? They're going to be
Uh-huh,
like,
uh-huh.
wait a minute, are you really going to a conference? And no, this will be thought leaders and provoking, and you will bring really cool tools away. We're also looking for different ways to infuse that recharge element. So, for example, we're working as a team to see if we can plan some sunrise yoga on the river, sunrise walk on the buffalo jump, evening. If you don't, if you're done with the bar camps and you're not wanting to stay out to do more of that, I'm trying to see if I can't arrange. We have a local stargazing club that does stargazing on the Missouri, that's within reach of our conference. So I think that we'll have some opportunities like that will provide that serendipitous connections that we all want at a conference, but that you don't necessarily get in a very loud reception area. So we'll have some traditional elements, but we're also going to infuse opportunities for that type of connection.
We participated in an intimate retreat. There were a dozen or ish of us a few years ago. in Colorado. And there was a group called, oh gosh, I can't remember the woman's name who created it, but Walk to Connect. And she facilitates walking tours. At the time, we did one in Denver, and I think we did one in Fort Collins. And you, like, as a group, kind of start off, and we're in a park, and we're walking, and she'll say, okay, now connect with somebody that you don't know, you haven't really had an in-depth conversation with, and ask that. She'll prompt us to, like, have a discussion, and we're going to talk with that person for the next 2 minutes, and then we might spend the next 5 minutes in silence, just walking around, like, observing nature and doing things. And then the next group, we might, break up and, get paired with somebody new. And this idea of, it's not matchmaking, it felt very genuine, very organic, and, like, beautifully supportive for the talkers or those that needed a minute of silence too.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I love that. In fact, I wrote a note.
Good. Yeah, it was beautiful. It was something I thought, wow, I get every good idea I've ever had in my life has been on a walk.
Oh.
So getting outside, if I am stumped in any capacity, I just need a break. I got to go outside. And take a walk. And so I think that there could be opportunities, in that time. I will give you that little idea.
Thank you.
What else is going on? Obviously, you're preparing for this, rural retreat as the host, but that's kind of, that's volunteer work. What's keeping you awake during your day job?
Much like what other economic developers are facing, right? Housing keeps me awake. And for us, really the infrastructure to support housing development, because I have developers who want to build more housing, but that does take additional infrastructure in our community. We're a community that has been very steady and stable. And so from about 2020 on, we've seen a significant increase in growth of our population. We have a lot of people that decided, well, my sister's one that works for a San Francisco IT company. And during 2020, when they went remote, she went, wait a minute, I can just do this all the time. And I would much rather live back home in Montana and have horses and land and be by the river and mountains than be in the middle of San Francisco. And so we have a lot of people that made those types of career changes and that are still making them. And so it's fantastic. And we really are excited to have everybody home and welcoming new residents. But, it's a matter of, okay, now how do you pay for the infrastructure and how do you support this growth in a meaningful way? So those are the things that keep us up at night. It's really supporting our community's growth.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Is there anything else that you'd like to, I've got a final question for all my podcast guests. But is there anything else that you showed up today and you're like, oh my gosh, I hope Sandy asks me about that thing that I'm doing?
Yeah. Well, really, I mean, right now, the Rural Retreat is a big focus of mine, making sure that this really is a powerful experience professionally and hopefully personally for everybody. We're working with tourism to make sure that there's opportunities if family members come along or friends, so that they have tour opportunities while you're in session, itineraries where you can take different length trips outside of Great Falls before or after the retreat. But we're about to put out a call for speakers. We were going to do some spark talks, and we want to just really electrify everybody because we are the electric city. We have 5 hydroelectric dams. And so if you want to be a speaker at the conference, just be watching for the IEDC e-blasts. And if you have any questions, just reach out directly to me. I'm happy to answer questions about what our focus is, what we're looking at, and what this experience will be like for you.
Awesome. I set up the Google flight alert for the Washington, D.C. airports to Great Falls. I don't know, back in September when it was announced, and I've been tracking all the time. It went down a good bit since September, and so now I'm waiting to push go on it.
You're getting in that window. You're going to want it soon.
It's good. So. Jolene, my final question that we ask all guests that aligns with our title here. We are the EDO Breakthrough podcast. And I'm curious, what was your economic development breakthrough or kind of your aha moment in economic development?
Oh, that's such a great question that you would have thought I would have prepared for in advance. Um, you know, I have those aha moments pretty much routinely. But the first real big breakthrough for me was I love systems thinking. And I I mean, everything is a system, right? Everything. And so equating what we do into that whole ecosystem, right? And that it really does come down to, and my big aha moment was that the book that I loved as a child, and a speaker at an IEDC conference pointed this out, and I've since shared this a lot because it's so true. I loved the Richard Scarry Busy Town books as a child. I absolutely adored seeing Mama Rabbit, who Farmer Rabbit was. They had to go and they had to buy the seeds, and they had to go and sow the field, and they had to water, and they had to sew their clothes, and go to the tailor shop and the bakery and sell their wheat to the mill that made flour, and then they got money, they could buy a tractor. Like their economic development. And my big breakthrough was that I was meant for economic development. Like that book, I still have it. Like the cover's coming off of it because I read it so much as a child. I've since bought new ones. All my kids have them. And I bought 2 for the office so that our clients' kids can have it. But I think it should have a page in that book that says, if your child adores this book, they should be an economic developer. Because it's all about the whole system, whether it's building a house or farming or whatever. And so that was my aha moment, is when I went, you know what? Yeah, this is what I have been most interested in my whole life, but I didn't have a name for it until, my second career.
Until you did. Like, you don't know until you know. And then you're
Exactly.
like, wow, how does everybody not know this? I don't understand.
Exactly.
So, yes. But cool. That's beautiful. Yay. Thank you.
Thanks for
sharing.
asking.
That's fun. Yeah, we'll find the book on Amazon or something like that, or a local bookstore, and put the link in the show notes for people that are curious on that one. So that would be good. That would be good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining today. This has been so fun. It went by super fast, but I really appreciate it, and I'm super excited for the rural retreat and just to continue the conversation and the challenge. To see who can meet the most, meet everybody or meet the most people.
Meet everybody at the conference.
So, cool. Yay.
Thank
no
you for
pressure
having me. This is great.
as I'm challenged by the chair of the conference host committee. So yeah, no pressure here. But awesome.
We're going to be
for
keeping
joining.
a tally, and people are going to ask, "What are you doing?" Nothing.
But if you listened, you'll know.
Yep.
So, yes. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining. And thank you to our listeners for sticking around this latest episode of the EDO Breakthrough podcast. Until next time.
The EDO Breakthrough podcast is brought to you by PPR Strategies. PPR Strategies, standing for People and Places Reimagined, is a strategic consulting firm working specifically with EDOs and other place-based organizations. We share the unique stories of communities through communication, strategic planning, marketing, media relations, and more. Visit us at pprstrategies.com and find our contact information in the show notes. I'd like to give a big thank you to you for listening. Remember, together we are unstoppable.